thought I'd give you an idea how I pin my quilts. You can see that I've got the backing taped down, and then I have one layer of batting. I'm just using some Quilter's Dream wool, and then I have the quilt top laid down on it. I get it all smooth, and then I start from the center, and about every 3 to 4 to 5 inches I put a safety pin. And when I'm pinning, I actually will pull away, not really hard, but I pull away so there's no wrinkles. So I pull away, and then I'm going to put a pin right in there. And then I'll do the same right here, pull away, put a pin in, pull away, put a pin in. So it kind of pulls all the wrinkles out to the edge. And I always make sure I have a good 3-inch border at least all the way around the edge. This is a good size quilt. It's going to be a cuddle quilt, so I'm not going to be putting on any hanging sleeve. It's for my husband. These are his old t-shirts. Each t-shirt has a backing on it. Anyway, so I'm going to get going and get this completely done, and then I will show you the completed pinned project, and then I'll show you what looks like after I get all the tape off the floor. Okay, the quilt is completely pinned. You can see the pins everywhere. And pretty uniform, about every 3 to 4 to 5 even inches apart. So I could just pull up the tape, but I might go ahead and use scissors and just trim to about 2 inches from the edge. That way I'll have a little bit less bulk to be having to move around. This is the back side of the Harley Davidson t-shirt quilt, and you can see my stipple quilting. It's nice and wide. I'll give you a reference. Here's my glasses. So it's going pretty good. And here's the front. I'm quilting on my Juki TL98Q. I bought this in 2008, and it still quilts wonderfully. Hey everybody, it's Martha. I am going to show you how I do meander quilting or stipple quilting. I like to call it meandering because that's kind of what I'm doing. This is a very basic Freemotion quilting design, but for my t-shirt quilt it's perfect. I want this to be a nice, comfy, drapey cuddle quilt and not something that's real stiff that's going to go up on a wall. So stipple quilting, and you can see why I call it meandering, and I'm going to do a little meander. So this is pretty much what meandering or stipple quilting is. It's just kind of doing little curvies all over the place until you get your whole space covered. And that, you can see why I call it meandering. Now you can start, and you can see where I started and I just kind of went over that line, or you can just leave it open. You could also start with a loop and then get going on your meandering. Well, it's not a very good one. So with the meandering stitch, you can do this is like a small, but I can even do smaller. So you can see how small this is. And I use this now and then to fill in spaces. It's really good for pushing that fabric to the background. The other thing you can do is you can make this any size you want. So let's get another piece. With my t-shirt quilt, I am doing a large meandering. So I'm going to show you how large I'm doing. And keep in mind, the pen that I'm using represents the needle, but this is not how it actually works, because I am free motioning with a domestic machine, which means my needle is like stable. It doesn't move around like the big long arms, they move around. So instead of the needle moving around, you're moving your quilt around. So you're holding, the needle is, on the machine, and then you are actually moving the quilt to do your design. And I will show you that in a minute. So most importantly, you want to bring your thread up, and I like to do a few stitches to knot it, and then I'll hide those stitches later. And then you start moving your quilt. And I wear my garden gloves because they've got a rubber palm so that I can actually move. My hands slip a lot with the fabric, so having the rubber gloves is really nice. And having just the rubber on one side and not on this side so my hands can breathe is what I like. So let's go to the machine. All right, I've already started this, as you can see. And then I ran out of bobbin thread, so I'm starting again, and I will start where the bobbin left off. I have already knotted where it left off on the back side and pulled it inside the quilt to bury the threads. So I'm starting right here. I am going to put my foot down, pull my thread up, pull the thread up to get started. I've got a really long thread for some reason. And then I'm going to go back down, put my needle down. Okay, then I'm going to put my gloves on. You can see these gloves, they're worn, but they've got the little tiny dots on one side, and they're thin, so my hands can actually breathe through this. All right, now what I'm going to do is take a couple stitches, and I'm going to go forward and back. And then I will probably knot it one more time, and then I will take a needle and I will bury this in the quilt sandwich. So I don't know if you can see, but this is all quilted right here. Right here is not. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. So here we go. This is what I call meandering. Now I look ahead, I can see that I need to fill in this space, but I just don't want to go straight. I want to do everything in kind of loop-de-loops, but I'm not making loops, I'm just making curvies. So fill it in with curvies, and look ahead and see where you need to put a curve. And then I go so far, I take out pins, because I know I'm going to be hitting them if I don't. Have a box for them. I'm going to go back up over here to the right. I want to see where my row is. So my row is about right here. So I'm going to be coming back now. I'm going to remove this one because I'm going to get very close to that one there. You can see my needle is going fairly fast, not super fast, but it's going quickly, but I am moving slowly. If I move too fast, I'm going to get huge stitches, which I don't want. I want them to be fairly consistent. Around, I need to go back up in that space. There's room for me. I try not to go over any of my stitching, but if I do, I do. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to take it out. I am not entering this in any show. but I do try and do my best work because I want this to last a long time. This is my husband's t-shirt quilt. So it's going to be a really nice cuddle quilt for him. It is a layer of beautiful flannel on the back. And then I've got wool in the middle. And then t-shirts and cotton fabric on the top. So I am going to go ahead and keep quilting, but I'll go a little sort of faster. We'll do time lapse. All right, if you have any questions, give me a call. Now, one thing I wanted to show you is when I'm quilting, let's get this pin out of the way. I try and keep my hands, they're very taut because I don't want to get wrinkles in the quilt and more on the back. So it's really important that when you get ready to layer, I like to pull my back taut, not overly taut, but taut, so that when I'm pinning and when I'm actually quilting, I'm not going to get wrinkles on the back of the quilt because that doesn't look good. Anyway, I think I covered it. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave me a comment. I will try and get back and answer to the best as I can. This is pretty much all self-taught, watching videos and just sort of trial and error, and lots of error. And I am getting better at it.